Just an update, everybody. We're going to be starting a few minutes late. There's an awful lot of digital files that need to be sorted through here. So give us a few more minutes to get started.
Popcorn,
Yeah,
beer,
I'm
beer,
gonna start
popcorn, beer, popcorn. Get it here.
Thank you, sir. There always is. Oh, he's a newbie. Ready? Now he does. Good morning, everyone. I am Ron Ford. We are here for our Kane County Development Committee. We are ready to start our meeting as of 10:10. Clerk, please call the roll.
Berman,
Here.
Doherty,
Here.
Iqbal,
All present.
Kenyon,
Here.
Linder, Davist, Caius,
Guys present.
Williams,
Williams present remote.
Ford,
Board present.
Tepe,
Tepe here.
Pirog. You have an in-person quorum.
We have Gary Doherty and Rick Williams here on remote requesting one for health, another for work. Any objections? Seeing none, we're moving forward. Can I get approval of minutes from October 17th of 2023?
Mr. Chairman, this is Caius. I would ask for unanimous consent for the approval of the minutes of October 17th, 2023.
Any questions or comments? All in favor by saying aye.
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 Opposed, same sign. Motion moved. Monthly financial reports. Any questions? All right. Anything's good? We get those at the end. Now we're ready for public comments on the agenda items. Oh, something, I can't read this. So we have Stewart.
Mr. Chairman, Shepro,
Yes.
this is just a suggestion. Would it be more appropriate to have them speak when each petition is called if they are signed up on a petition?
It's up to the committee. That's, all right, sounds good.
I can remember, whatever.
Okay.
All right, so we're gonna move on to our public and zoning division, our public and zoning reports.
Good morning, Mark
First,
Van
go ahead.
Kerkhoff, Director of Development and Community Services. Our building and zoning report, we are continuing to be pretty busy with building permits. We're obviously very busy with solar, community solar project applications from a zoning standpoint, as you'll see from our continuing with our agenda today. Happy to answer any questions that you might have.
All right. Go ahead.
Okay, moving on to zoning petitions. First, we have petition 4616. And
Not there. Stand.
so, as your zoning officer, before we get into the presentation on this petition, I want to comment that in the last 12 to 24 hours, we have received multiple emails and letters from attorneys' offices and additional information, more than we typically receive on a petition. Some of which are from people who may be here in person, and some representing attorneys or people who aren't here in person have asked the items to be read into the record. I discussed this with Chairman Ford, and that's typically not how the county development handles comments that come in on zoning petitions. So with his concurrence and the committee's concurrence, those it will be attached to the minutes of the meeting. They will be posted on the county's website pertaining to the petition that it relates to, so that correspondence and information will be available to all county board members and the public in their review of what's been submitted for the petition. The other thing I will mention is one thing that is unique with these solar project petitions is that the state statute passed earlier this year does have a time window by which, once a petition is completed and submitted, that it needs to be heard by the Zoning Board of Appeals. And then within 30 days of the public hearing needs to be considered by the county board for a vote. So to that extent, it would be staff's recommendation. I believe our state's attorney would concur that if the petitioner were to ask for the matter to be continued, that would put a pause on the 30-day requirement at their request, and you as a committee could grant that pause. We would not recommend that the development committee table the matter, because that would take the consideration past the 30 days. So given the fact that a lot of new information you may hear this morning, and even not be able to read within the short time period that it was received, you may want to consider moving the petition onto the full county board without making a recommendation, if you're not able to consider all the information that's presented this morning or came in just recently. So I'm ready to make those two comments, and if you have any questions, I'll move into our first petition. Okay.
All right.
So petition 4616, Blair Alexander and Richard Johnson. This is in board member Leonard's district. It's requesting a special use in the F farming district for a solar facility. Here it is on our 2040 land use plan. It's area plan for agriculture. You can see that's the predominant land use in the vicinity, with the exception of a older residential subdivision to the southwest. Here it is on the zoning map. Again, you can see it's predominantly zoned F district farming, with dotted with some F1s and F2, which are farm residences and farm related businesses, and then the R1 subdivision. Here it is on the aerial. You can see it's predominantly surrounded by farmed land. Here it is a little bit closer. And closer, the subject parcel has access off to Route 38 by this small section of land that gets to the interior portion. This is the original solar plan that was submitted by the petitioner and was published and subject to the public hearing. And you can see the illustration showing the fencing and the solar panels. We just this morning received a updated site plan from the petitioner, which I will get to in a minute, illustrating some of the additional screening that they agreed to at the zoning hearing, and some additional comments regarding this section of the land, which we just received this morning. Now that's later in the presentation. Here it is again, the site plan that was submitted and reviewed. So this is the revised site plan that staff received this morning at the one of the conditions recommended by the zoning board and agreed by the petitioner was for some additional screening to be added at this section of the property. What was new to staff this morning, although I understand from the petitioner that he may have expressed this verbally at the zoning board hearing, they're requesting this area be included in the site plan for additional panels to be placed here. I just had a conversation with petitioner explaining that, well, that may have been explained verbally, that the published site plan showed panels, graphically ending in this area, and this level of change, it'd be up to the committee whether, and if you pass this on, we may need to discuss with the state's attorney whether this be more appropriately remanded back to the zoning board based on the new site plan showing panels now being requested to be further south on the property. So again, staff just learned of this morning as well. Here is a plat of survey of the property here, again showing the small sliver going out to Route 38. Staff recommended comments. The special use would allow for a solar facility to be constructed on the property. These are our usual water resource comments about the area. What I don't know is whether the additional areas of panels that the petitioner is wanting the flexibility to add, if that impacts any water resources stipulations. Director Welnick is shaking her head no. So KDOT's also recommend the stipulation that they be required to obtain an access permit to Route 38 and fulfill all permit requirements from IDOT. Zoning Board of Appeals came up with a finding of fact that the petition does meet the 6 standards for special uses. They also recommended the additional screening provided along the property line, extending 500 feet to the north. I just showed that on the revised site plan we received this morning. They also noted that the Caneville Fire Department be contacted to comment on the proposed access road for review and approval. There was a representative from the fire district here this morning signed up to speak regarding that. He did confirm that they had received notice of the petition back in August, and they have some comments this morning. Also noted with them that they will have the opportunity to review and add requirements from a permitting standpoint if this were to be approved and they submit permits for the construction of a solar facility. Their other stipulation was all applicable road authorities review and approve the requested access. This is before you this morning. And the petitioner is here also, and I believe we have a number of people signed up to speak, and I'm happy to answer any questions at this time.
Sorry, any question or comments by committee members?
Mr. Chairman,
Go ahead.
I have 2 additional stipulations that I would like to be added to these, and I have sent it to Blair. If he could put them on the screen. Okay. They're quite obvious. Number would be 16 or 17, whatever the numbers are. The first one says that it is contingent upon the plat of survey and the site plan that is attached with the petition, nothing else. And the second one refers to the statute that we have right now. So this petition has to conform with the county code, the state code, the state statute, and the federal law.
Yeah.
So we want to be upfront here and let everyone know what the requirements are.
Is that your motion?
Yeah, I move that it should be amended.
Do we have a second?
Kenyon would second.
All right. Any questions or comments? Go ahead.
Yeah, this is Caius. Just a little more clarification, if I can, on the what it is they're going to be changing. Is this just all whole cloth? Is it just a brand new section, or are you modifying part of the?
This 11 was, I took it from the 4615, which is coming before the board. And that is the item 11. Item 11 was not very clear, so I modified it and made it simple. And this is exactly the same sentence from that petition. The first one, they say that we are considering this plan and we are approving this very plan, nothing else, which is very obvious. The second one is that the design, construction, maintenance, decommissioning of the proposed commercial solar property should be in accordance with the county code, the state statute, and the federal laws. And I added the terms design, construction, maintenance, and decommissioning because those are the one discussed in the statute. There is an annual inspection of the solar facilities that will tell the county how safe it is, how it has performed in 1 year. So every year there has to be an annual report. It is by statute. And that's part of the maintenance and the part of the safety. And the decommissioning part is a big part. If the applicant wants to leave the facility after a while, there is a decommissioning process. We want to get the land to where it was before it was put into this use. And there's a insurance requirement, which is by the statute, which says the applicant shall carry $5 million insurance per occurrence and 20 million in aggregate, and that we need to enforce it. But this one only outlays what is needed.
Go ahead.
Yeah, Mr. Chairman, thank you. Ken Shepro, Special Assistant State's Attorney. We took a look at these and they do not add any new burdens. They are simply, I think, statements of existing law and existing requirements. As such, it would be appropriate if the committee decides to include them as additional stipulations.
I don't think, we did not get a second.
There was a second.
Can you, okay.
Again,
I think Tepe had his.
Tepe here, just a question. Under point 11, were you saying site plan attached? Is that the plan of where they're going to lay out the panels?
With their petition, they submit always a plat of survey and the site plan, which site plan tells you how much setback they are providing.
So if they add panels or take out panels, they have to come back and get additional approval? That,
Yeah, so in your zoning ordinance for special uses, there's a site development plan required for any special use. And that's illustrated in the original petition. If there's a minor adjustment to an approved site development plan, it can be reviewed by the development committee. If it's more than a small adjustment or more adverse effect to adjacent property owners, then it would have to go back to through the zoning board for a public hearing for a change to an approved special use site plan.
so if a site plan had been submitted and then an adjustment was made, would that not restart the clock on the approval process?
Well, that's an item we've been discussing with the state's attorney's office as it goes with in sync with the state statute for these solar power facilities. In terms of what was the site plan that was published, reviewed by the zoning board of appeals when they made their recommendation to you. So.
Thank you. Got it.
excuse me, but I'm still kind of lost on this. This is the first time I've looked through this stuff. Item 11 and 12 are replacing something in the
Adding-
petition?
They wouldn't be 11 and 12 for this petition. They would be what, 15 and 16 or?
Yeah, 16 or 17 or 17.
Okay, so
18,
they're at the
something.
end then.
Yeah.
Oh, in addition to, I'm sorry, I missed that. So, all
Renumbered.
Addition to
right.
Berman.
Berman here. I don't know what this adds to our decision-making. I guess I would defer to our Director of Development as to, do you see this being something necessary in addition to the motion or the
Petition.
resolution as presented?
Yeah, I would concur with Special State's Attorney Shepro in that these items are covered by the state statute and covered in the county's ordinance. We have other stipulations that could be also considered redundant to what's found in the county code, but it may be if the board desires to have them stated, in the affirmative with this particular petition or zoning petitions, it certainly doesn't hurt to add them.
Madam Chair.
Thank you. I would concur with Mr. Van Kerkhoff's comments. It's always good to have another reference, and if it provides no harm and simply adds additional support, I don't see what the issue is, and I appreciate Mr. Iqbal going through this detail. At the previous board meeting we had, there was a discussion about the decommissioning of these solar fields. And that was, this is brought to that attention regarding the insurance and the requirements. So I see no harm in this.
Go ahead.
Yeah, Shipro again, I believe, Mr. Van Kerkhoff, that these two would not affect one way or the other. What you outlined would be the procedure if there was a minor modification.
That is correct.
Why do we need to pass it twice?
Any other questions or comments? Seeing none, roll call vote
This is on the amendment.
on the amendment, yes.
Berman,
Berman, no.
Doherty,
Yes.
Iqbal,
Iqbal, yes.
Kenyon,
Yes.
Linder,
No.
Davis. Oh, sorry, he's not here. Caius,
Caius, no.
Williams,
Williams, yes.
Ford.
Ford, yes.
Passes 5-3.
All right. All right, moving on. You have anything else?
No, I believe the petitioner is here. If he wants to speak to the petition, then we have a number of people signed up to speak. And we have a number of presentations. Keith Burkout or myself can help Blair manage those as the speakers come up.
All right. So the petitioner, do you want to come up now or? Go ahead.
Good morning, everyone. Happy Thanksgiving week. Thank you for your service. I understand you got a long day. My name is Richard Johnson, and along with my wife, Blair Alexander, who is on the Zoom call, we are the owners of the property associated with petition 4616. As you can imagine, we are in support of Horizon Solar's project for all of the reasons that I outlined last time. You might remember I bored you to death with kind of a pro-solar statement. We believe that the community solar farm proposed by Horizon is not only an appropriate, but also an eminently worthy use of our land. It makes environmental and economic sense. You will no doubt hear a number of objections to this project today, and we are prepared to respond to those individually if you wish. But I would like to specifically tackle the meritless claims of easement against our property, since they may feature prominently in the objections. And to that end, I would like to read into the record the last paragraph of the letter from our attorney, and I believe that you are each in possession of that letter. And I quote from the letter: "Each party to this dispute has access. No one is landlocked. Realistic and practical alternatives have been identified. Only now, after the solar project was proposed, did the neighbors collectively claim some interest in and to an access on the owner's property. As you are all particularly aware, neighbors often struggle with property uses they do not want, but if that were the sole basis upon which parties could object, no development would occur. We would ask you to look at these claims for what they are: neighbors who are unhappy with the changes occurring and are attempting to raise enough questions to sidetrack the process. Please know that their claims are unfounded and their refusal to come up with realistic alternatives unreasonable. Very truly yours, Kate L. McCracken, Hoshite, McGurkin, Kraken, Cascade." Thank you very much.
Thank you, Rich. I'm Andy Melka, Horizon Solar Power. Nice to be back in front of you again. We are the developer for this project, Kane Solar 02, petition 4616. I have nothing really specific to say other than I appreciate the added clarity and the added certainty that Mr. Iqbal's proposed amended stipulations would bring to the project. We had, of course, always intended to be compliant with all applicable county, state, and federal laws. On decommissioning, we did submit a decommissioning plan to the ZBA, which includes provisions for all the removal and disposal of the solar project at the end of its useful life, along with financial security to assure the same. I would happily take any further questions from the committee, but at this point, I think I'll stand aside and let other public comment be made, unless Mr. Chair would like me to remain here.
Yeah, any questions or comments by the committee? All right, seeing none, we're gonna move on. Thank you. All right, we're gonna move on to for the public. We have Carrie Sabalik.
Hello, and I do have some slides that I have passed off. It should say public comment Civic.
Could you get a little closer to the microphone? Want to be able
Sure.
to hear you.
I do have copies of those slides too that I'd like to present to the board as well, so you can pass those around. We're waiting for the slideshow. And to honor time, I will go ahead and begin. My name is Carrie Civic. I live at 1 North 700 Meredith Road in Maple Park. My residence borders the proposed solar farm, and I have been a Kane County resident for 27 years and have been a Kaneland teacher for 25 years. The petitioners have just stated that there's no easement and explained how the landowners need to accommodate them. We, the landowners, know that there is an easement. We've used that easement for over 20 years for agriculture on our properties, and we are proceeding with legal action with Mr. Ed Bola of Drendel and Jansen to solidify that. This is our only access, and it has only come to this point because the landowner, after 30 years, is now denying us access. So I'm here, though, to talk about the Alexander Solar Project 4616. My slides detail several issues and concerns that exist with this petition: the 50-foot required setback regulations, issues with regards to the vegetative screen, and the land use study results. Next slide, please. Illinois Public Act 102-1123 details the minimum requirements by the state for commercial wind and solar facilities. The picture on your right is from the documents that Horizon Solar is providing you today. You can see a 60-foot wide strip of land where they have planned to put a gravel access road, utility poles that do not currently exist in that area, with transmission lines and a pole-mounted load break switch. That strip of land is between two non-participating properties. The minimum setback for any facility of a solar installation is 50 feet from a non-participating property. They cannot put up these components on the strip of land and have them 50 feet away from both of the non-participating properties. Please note the definitions on page 10 that list what a facility is: transmission lines, access roads, and other things. I've included the exact language from the state law on this slide. My picture on the bottom shows you the two non-participating properties and the 60-foot strip. Next slide, please. In the land use report, there's a section focused on lawn and landscaping. The state of Illinois and Kane County require a continuous vegetative screen of trees for solar installations. Next slide, please. My western property line is almost entirely classified for trees as very limited and poor performance to be expected. Trees cannot grow in this area. We have let nature take its course on our property line. For example, you can see that very small yellow section I have with an arrow is the only section that trees can sustain, and that is an actual picture of the two trees that exist there. Also, the petitioner's screening plan is woefully inadequate compared to all of the other solar development projects that you have heard in the past several months and will be hearing in the next upcoming months. There is no mention of a bond to provide maintenance for the vegetative screening. In these situations, this is what you will get. Please, next slide. This is a solar farm just west of us in Cortland Township, and the result after 2 years. It will be almost impossible for the petitioner to comply with Kane County's solar ordinance 5007 in regards to vegetative screening for this project. Next slide, please. In the soil interpretation section, there's a specific report for solar arrays. 75% of the land proposed for this particular project falls into the very limited poor performance category for solar arrays. That's a majority of the property and the lowest grade you can receive for this part of the study. Next slide, please. The LISA score for this parcel of land is 84, and based on that, the tract warrants moderate protection efforts from development. A score of 85, 1 point away and within the margin of error, would make this land eligible for protection. 79% of this property is considered prime or prime if drained farmland. Caneville is known for having some of the most productive farmable lands in the state of Illinois, and part of the county's 2040 plan is to preserve our farmlands. My final slides do contain summaries of the Kane Soil, Water, and Conservation District study that was provided based on your recommendations that show data how this site is not fitting the petitioner's request to change the zoning for this parcel of land. The soil is not suited for solar arrays. A vegetative screen cannot grow and sustain in this area. In conclusion, this site is not suitable for this project. I urge the development board to deny the special use permit. Thank you for your time.
All right, thank you. Next, we have Retorso. Is that Stephen? Stewart? I've been told it's Peterson.
That's correct.
Okay.
Good morning, everyone, and happy holiday week, and everybody have safe travels over this Thanksgiving weekend. I'd like to start off where the last speaker ended, and there's requirements in the state statute that have put handcuffs on the county. But specifically, the previous speaker addressed still what they have to meet. In regards to this land use, I don't think they can meet that. It's clear that this is not proper for solar, that they're not going to be able to maintain it. In regards to also her presentation on the 50-foot setback, they cannot physically meet that, given the flagpole of anywhere from 60 to 65 feet. That's the opening of this claimed easement. The facility is clearly there because the transmission line's got to be placed on this proposed roadway access off of Route 38, which is a long access. You're going to hear from another speaker from the fire department in which they said, we've received a notice, but nobody really requested our input. And that's one thing I want to address with the county board this afternoon, is what are we requiring from our intergovernmental agencies that are interested in this project? Life safety is important with the fire departments. This is Route 38, in which we're going to expect probably one way in, one way out fire equipment. That's putting our servicemen in danger. They're adding equipment, which is facility equipment, light poles and other transmission lines that are not currently there. I don't think they could ever meet this requirement. Interesting enough, at the Zoning Board of Appeals, they had indicated this easement really wasn't used. The previous owners, had required other equipment be brought back through this road before. And those equipment providers, or I think it was specifically mentioned propane, indicated they couldn't do it because the road wasn't safe enough. The incline and the topography was not correct. Well, it was not really prime land for an access road for a propane truck. How is it going to be appropriate for any of our firefighting apparatus or emergency vehicles that may need to be brought to our attention? And this brings me to concern because I don't think this is the only petition that's never been considered, because the Zoning Board of Appeals is basically indicating, it appears, that if an agency doesn't respond, they must have no concerns. I think it takes a little bit more effort than to say, hey, we're having a meeting. We need to address this ahead of time before a lot of people spend money, whether it's to protect the petitioner, because they should know before they expend money on site plans. I do notice that they have a revised site plan today, and that they mentioned that there's possible future use to the south of that property where they could put more panels. Because my client is vehemently objecting to this petition being granted, I represent Vito Brandonicio and his underlying trust that owns the property in the Aqua Viva winery. This is where we're putting it. And I think it's an absurd argument that we say, it's okay to look at. That's not going to bother anybody to that scenic view. And I asked, matter of fact, before I forget, that I had sent an email letter this morning to every one of the committee members, as well as the zoning department, that letter be made part of the record. The screening that's proposed to be provided will not adequately cover the sight line. Most of it is lower in height than what these panels will raise. Finally, we look at the thermal impact that was brought to the zoning board of appeals at the first hearing on this matter in September, when the petitioner asked to be continued. And Ms. Kurmusiki on pages 52, 53, and through 54 addressed her concerns as to the thermal impact in terms of temperature coming from the solar farm. Additionally, there's been some studies by the University of Maryland in that Russ Higgins, executive educator, commercial ag from the University of Illinois, has indicated that there's studies showing that there's a 5.5 to 7.2 degree Fahrenheit temperature change around these fields. Mr. Brandonisio grows grapes. In the early year, when it's just a simple few degrees could cause early bloom for these grapevines to start growing, then if we get cold again, they could die. This could cause premature effects on the grapevines themselves in terms of a thermal impact and cause him to lose his grape crops. And I'm asking that if I could use some of Mr. Brandonisio's time, he signed up to talk today. In closing, because I know my clock is ticking down, that if
Your clock actually ticked down, but go ahead.
that Mr. Brandoniso wants me to use his time,
Okay.
in which I think he's allowed to do. In regards to the proposed southern expansion of this, if the committee is thinking about recommending it, I don't think they should, that there's about 4 or 5 rows of short panels that's directly abutting on the site plan to the west, to the east, that goes to the winery. That stipulation, if it's going to be recommended, that maybe those rows of panels be shifted to that still open area to the south, which would create a greater distance of property between the winery and the solar panel itself, because my understanding each row accommodates is probably somewhere between 10 to 15 feet, if I was told correctly. That would change the distance in terms of the setback of the actual solar panels to Mr. Brandoniso's vineyards, which I think is a very attractive and destination spot that people are learning about in Kane County. I think you should take that into consideration. And I think you should deny and not recommend this, and at least maybe send it back to the zoning board of appeals for more consideration as to these concerns, because it has been brought up at the last meeting last week, is why didn't the fire department respond? And one of the members had big concerns of he could not believe that they had no input. I believe the captain from the Caneville Fire Department, who has jurisdiction over this property for fire protection services, is here to speak on that matter as well. I respectfully request that you not recommend this project. And again, it is just to stick your head in the sand to think that this does not affect the location on real estate values. People are concerned when they're buying out there what they're looking at. And to say otherwise, I think, is absurd. Thank you.
Thank you. Next, we have Julie Kozar.
Good morning. My name is Julie Colzo. I am here to read into record the letter from attorney Ed Bola, who represents several residents bordering this petition's property. In lieu of time, I will summarize the letter. Dear Development Committee, I represent the property owners to the northeast, east, and southeast of the petitioner's property. I ask that this letter be read and entered into record. Unfortunately, I'm unable to attend the November 21st meeting due to a prior commitment. Adjoining my client's properties and the petitioner's property is an access road, which has been utilized to farm the land for over 100 years and continues to be used by my clients for the very same purpose. Petition 4616 seeks to enclose the access road and forever block my client's use and access to their own properties. Since petition 4616 was submitted to the county, my clients have made every effort to accommodate petitioner's proposed use while preserving the existing use of their properties. Property owners to the north of the proposed special use, Gala Argent and James Light, the site of the original 280-acre James Meredith farmstead, would be forever prohibited from accessing the eastern portion of their property for the agricultural purposes it was intended and zoned. The property owners to the east, Carrie Savilic and Chuck Haskin, and southeast, Donna Riggs, would no longer be able to farm their land, which has been farmed the exact same way for at least a century. At this point, petitioners are wholly unwilling to even entertain the continued use of the access road by my clients. All of the offers put the cost and burden on my clients without any real inconvenience to the petitioners. In sum, all of the proposals offered by the petitioners are what would be the least expensive and least burdensome to them. The offer essentially proposed the use of my client's land and my client's resources to effectively give up their easement rights. None of the offers even acknowledge the readily apparent easement rights my clients possess. My clients purchased their property for its intended use, agriculture. The petitioners want to not only place unsightly and untested non-agricultural infrastructure mere feet from their doorsteps, but they also want to take away my clients' rights to use their land or agricultural purposes, which is how the land has been used since the 19th century. This matter must be tabled so that real discussions regarding the use of the access road, or at the very least, real and viable alternatives are negotiated. My clients have done everything in their power to avoid any unnecessary costs and expense to petitioners to this point, but they will use the courts to enforce their rights. Of course, it is my client's hope that it actually does not come to that, and this matter is tabled so the parties can actually negotiate in good faith. Should you have any questions, please do not hesitate to contact me at 630-406-5440. Thank you for your thoughtful consideration of this letter. Edward J. Bola, Drendel and Jansen's Law Group. Thank you.
Thank you. Next, we have Donna Riggs.
Mr. Chair,
Yes,
do we have a motion and a second on this?
we do.
We do not.
No, we do not.
Oh, not an ex petition. I thought we did.
amendment.
We did, I'm sorry, okay.
That's
Can we get a motion, a second on?
Caius would move.
I'll
Caius
second.
moves it.
I'll second.
All right.
Have a second?
Go ahead.
Good morning. My name is Donna Riggs, and my late husband and I have owned property on Meredith Road dating back to 1992. It's the old James Meredith farm, as you all have heard, and we were the first lot of the subdivided parcels from that farm. And the access road that you have heard about is basically the easement into the agricultural part of the properties where the land has been farmed over the years for centuries. My issue that I want you to understand the hardship and the financial burden that's happening to me is that because I won't be able to farm my land, my home will be worth less, and the income from my farmland that I am desperately using is going to be lost. And the fact that I can't access that easement because of the current plan and layout, it's the layout of this plan that's basically shutting off this easement that we've used for decades, is a severe burden and hardship to me. Now, I have a residential home. It was the first one built on Meredith, and I have a Clary, outbuilding, and I have a shop that I have not been successful in getting a second drive for. Kane County allows one access per parcel, and we're a society of people that follow laws and ordinances. And the fact that I can't get a second one, I'm being basically badgered that I have to put in another one to farm my own land. And I can't even get the one I needed for my shop, let alone one to access my own farmland because of an easement that is being shut off from me that we've used dating back for decades. And I just want the committee to understand what is happening because of the current plan and layout of this project that is forever shutting off this easement that's been used. It's a true hardship. And I just really would like for you to understand that and take that into consideration when you look on whether or not to approve this and move it forward. And I would ask for you to please understand the hardship it's presenting to me. Thank you for your time.
Thank you. Next, we have Chuck Haskin. Haskin.
Good morning. I also have a presentation, should be called Public Comment Haskin. And I also have hard copies for those who would like to see those. Yeah, there's a presentation, Public Comment Haskin. Okay, there it is. Thank you. Good morning. I would like to preface my remarks by stating that I do not categorically oppose green energy such as solar or wind. I understand that the state of Illinois is required to be completely on renewable energy by 2045. I do, however, believe that these projects should be implemented on sites that are suitable for this type of development. Toward that end, I, as well as my neighboring property owners, would like to demonstrate to the board why this site is not suitable for this project and that it fails to meet some of the state and county requirements regarding solar installations. Next slide, please. Looking at this area, the county has already approved or is in the process of approving 2 other commercial solar facilities in close proximity to this proposed site. In those particular cases, the landowners also live on the properties, so that seems reasonable. In the case of this site, however, the landowners do not live there. One of our concerns is that these facilities are being concentrated in this relatively small area without any consideration to the surrounding neighbors. Next slide, please. Additionally, unlike the other projects, this proposal has many more residents in close proximity. It should be noted that nearly all of the surrounding residents are opposed and have submitted letters and/or signed a petition expressing their opposition. If this project could be adequately screened from view with trees and vegetation as is required by state and county regulations, there might be less opposition. However, due to the topography and soil conditions, this site would be nearly impossible to be screened adequately. Next slide, please. According to the land use opinion created for this project, there is a nearly 30-foot elevation difference from the Meredith properties to the western edge of the proposed site. This hill will make the proposed solar installation quite visible to the surrounding neighbors. Next slide, please. Here's a picture of what this site looks like from our property on Meredith Road. Our neighbors on Meredith also have a very similar view. Next slide, please. Here's an artist's rendering of what the solar installation would look like to the surrounding neighbors. Because of this hill, in order to screen the site from the Meredith properties to the east, the trees would need to be so tall that they would shade the solar panels in the morning hours. This would seem counterproductive to the primary objective of this project. Next slide, please. Lastly, one of the properties that borders the proposed site is the Aquaviva Vineyard. Aquaviva is a successful established business and a destination in rural King County. In addition, it is not just a vineyard, but an award-winning wedding venue. Next slide, please. People choose Aquaviva for their big day because of the view and the rural beauty of this location. That's a large part of what makes Aquaviva special. I don't believe many people would want to have their wedding ceremony with solar panels looming on the hill in the background, or read their wedding vows over the buzz of power inverters. For example, the proposed solar installation would be visible on the hill in the background of this photo. For these reasons, as well as those brought forth by my neighbors, we strongly urge the development board to reject this special use application. Thank you for your time today.
Thank you. Next, we have John Pree. John Pree, I'm sorry.
Yes, I'm John Pree. I live now. I recently moved into 1N455 Country Life Road, although I have owned that property for quite a few years. And
the microphone a little closer. Here you go. There you go.
Close enough? Oh, yeah. Okay. I can't believe this is happening. First, required setbacks. The entrance to this property is only 60 feet wide. And on that, they have to put a road and transmission lines and stuff. How can they possibly have the required setbacks from the state with a 60-foot wide entrance? I can't believe that part of it. I think there's got to be problems with the required setback here. Another problem, it's been stated that a large part of this is wetlands. I don't know if that is, how defined that is or something like that. But if there is wetlands here, there should be requirements met. And because putting things on anything that is or should be wetlands should be limited. More specific to me, I presently live in the rest of my life. My permanent residence will be at the end of Country Life Road. The elevation up there is above. We are quite a bit higher at that point. It's sort of on I think a glacial moraine. I'm going at present from the bedroom I sleep in. I can go to the window and look out and down at the crop fields out there. Well, instead of looking down at crop fields, if this goes through, I'll be looking down at solar panels. I would request, if this thing happens, that 500 feet be extended to 1,000 feet to give screening, additional screening to those of us who live primarily west and south of this, so that we don't have to look, so that we don't have to see as much of it. I think the vegetation should also be defined. Vegetation that is a foot or two tall will not cut it. It needs to be at least 10 or 12 feet. I'm opposed to this and I hope it doesn't happen.
All right, thank you. Next, we'll hear from our Kingsville Fire Department representative.
Good morning. I'm David Kovach from Caneville Fire Department. I serve as captain for the community. My purview here is, it's been discussed about the notification of the fire department. We were notified, like we are for most petitions for zoning change. I believe that was August 11th. The process there, as discussed, was previously was not requesting information. So there's a process that we're going to have to change at our department in order to make sure that we have input to these kinds of processes earlier. I don't know at what stage this currently exists. The concerns that we have are similar to those stated, that the access road to this property and this potential facility is probably insufficient for significant response by the fire department. As you've seen on the photos, on the images on the screen, the property is surrounded by other properties. The access is singly from that strip of land, I believe 60 feet wide, on which additional infrastructure is likely placed. So there's a potential that as a responder, we would not be able to access that property, given the current width of that section of the property. The concern is not only for the facility, but for the land. We do run into field fires and access throughout a property, especially agriculturally produced, is important. We have a pickup truck that can access lands from other directions, but being able to access that property with sufficient water to supply that pickup truck is going to be an important part of our response to that. And that would be an important aspect that we would look for in the permitting process for this. So given the current design, our concern is that the ability for us to properly respond may be insufficient. That's all I have. Thank you very much.
All right, thank you. Next, we have Richard Johnson. All right, oh, yes, I'm sorry. I think, unless I missed someone, I think that includes everyone for 4616. All right, moving on. Any comments or statement from board members from committee? Go ahead.
Thank you, Chairman Ford. This property is in my district. I've had meetings with these people. I've had many, many phone calls and many emails objecting to this. And even though I'm not on the committee, I think there are enough issues that have been brought up today that I think it's important that this be moved to a later meeting, whether it's a pause or whatever term we need to use in order to keep the clock running. But I think it is important that this not be voted on today, but rather continue to another meeting.
Go ahead, Mark.
Yes, as a reminder, with the 30-day clock, if the petitioner were to request a pause, I believe that would be okay under the state statute that would pause the clock on their behalf. But staff and I believe state's attorney's recommendation would be that you either move this on to the county board with a positive or negative recommendation, which is customary, but you also have the option to pass this along with no recommendation, given the amount of new information that you have. I would, because of the volume of new information, including the proposed change to the site plan, staff would also be reviewing that with the state's attorney to see whether or not, once it reached county board, whether or not it should be remanded back to the ZBA for a new hearing on the new site plan, or whether the county board would be able to vote on it at that time and stay under the 30-day minimum.
Mr. Chairman, in light of what Mr. Van Kerkhoff said, is there anyone here that would like to request a pause that is a petitioner?
You asking the petitioner?
Or not the petitioner, for the objectors?
Got his hand up there.
Can't do it.
I
Well,
wanted to find out if anyone would request a pause on this.
So only the, respectfully, only the petitioner would be able to request the continuance.
It's only the petitioner.
Yeah, well, I was going to point out, Jeffro, that the.
Can't hear you.
I know. Some people would think that's a good thing. Yes, I did as Mr. Van Kerkhoff has pointed out, the petitioner could request a postponement, which would not, the clock would not run. Otherwise, the clock would run. I would also note, in addition to Mr. Van Kerkhoff's comments, is that the board, I believe, is aware that a letter on the whole broader question of the applicability of the state statute to solar panels went out yesterday afternoon. And I know from conversations that not everyone has had a chance to review that. And I think that discussion or that review would be important in any final decisions that are made. So I think we concur that it would be appropriate in this case, if the board wished to not make a recommendation, or the committee, that it be passed on to the full board without a recommendation. And then the full board could consider the possibility of a remand for further hearings or the additional information that has been submitted today.
Petitioner, you want to come up?
Yes, thank you, Mr. Chair. Obviously, there has been a lot of information brought up today. A lot of this has been hashed through at the ZBA, and that is but settled. And that's why we got the recommendation, the positive recommendation that we did. We're happy to speak with fire to make sure that our access is adequate. Our understanding was that was part of the process that was done. As Captain said, there was initial notice, but we're happy to be the project that is a catalyst for more interaction with the fire department, either prior to the ZBA and our special use process, or afterwards as a stipulation, which I believe, is already in our project stipulations, in which we will happily comply with and have further discussions with fire. There's been a lot of misstatements and factual inaccuracies that were stated by a lot of the opponents here today. Again, we've hashed over a lot of this at the ZBA level. Pardon me. We do not think there's any need for a pause. We have addressed nearly every one of the complaints. Obviously, not everybody is going to be happy about this project, but I'd be interested to know from the committee members if there are specific issues that the committee members are unsure of, and I would appreciate the opportunity to respond and rebut to those specific. One more point. As Mark mentioned, there was a site plan modification. I want to make clear that we have not actually changed the location where we are proposing solar panels. One thing I had added, but I am happy to withdraw, is a request that we have some flexibility in the south portion of the site to put panels where we had not shown panels before. And I would like to withdraw that request. If we decide to change the site plan in the future, then we can go back to the ZBA and do so. But we do not need to do so at this point, from my perspective.
Mark,
Thank you. Yeah, Mark Van Kirkhoff. That's exactly what I was going to ask, was for you to confirm which site plan you wanted this committee and the county board to consider in their vote. So you're confirming that you want the original site plan as the panels shown
With
when
the
you
updated
submitted the
screen.
petition, with the
Yes.
updated
Yes,
screen,
sir.
which is a stipulation,
Yes, sir.
but with no panels in that southern portion where none are graphically indicated on the site plan. Thank you.
Correct.
thank you. Mike,
Since this is a long time decision, I'd like to move that we put it to the December meeting and talk some more about it.
You're gonna
What?
potentially run the clock out if you do that,
Can't do that.
right?
Whatever we can do not to run the clock. This is gonna be there forever.
any,
That's when we make up our mind.
yeah,
Yes or
at,
no?
at this time, what is the request of the committee at this point?
Call the vote. Call the question.
You could call the question, or you could ask for a motion to make no recommendation. I mean, you have a
Would that be a
Mo-
modification? to
Right now,
the
there's a,
res- Or an amendment?
Shepro, right now, there's a motion that was made and seconded, nunc pro tunc, and amended to include 2 additional stipulations. So that was phrased in a positive way. It would be approval with the stipulations, including Mr. Iqbal's amendment. If that, I suppose that motion should be voted upon one way or the other. If it were passed, that would be the end of it. If it were rejected, another motion would be in order to forward with no recommendation, if that were the sense of the committee. But the committee needs to take some action,
Right.
either to recommend approval, recommend rejection, or forward it in some other fashion for final county board action in order to meet the statutory deadlines.
The motion was made by Caius.
Caius,
Okay.
seconded by Kenyon, and then amended in some fashion to add the 2 additional stipulations. So that is what is presently before the board or the committee for consideration.
So you would ask then the mover to change the
Yeah.
motion to either to pass it,
Can we
but
change-
with
can the motion be
with the
changed?
recommendation.
Well, at this point, I think that motion needs to be voted upon
Okay.
before another motion could
All right.
be.
Any
We
rejections?
have a point of order. First, I got a little confused here. The petitioner submitted a new site plan.
They
and
withdraw.
we moved on it, then he withdrew it. Is this motion valid at this point? Now that we're looking at a different site plan?
Well, as I understand it, the new site plan has not been formally submitted, Mr. Van Kerkhoff. I mean, the change.
It was presented as part of the staff site plan as we had only received it this morning. It illustrates a stipulation made by the zoning board for the additional 500 feet of screening as an illustration. It's the text that he added regarding those southern areas, which he has now withdrawn. But to your statement, it was not, that's as formal as it was submitted. And he was withdrawing the statement on that.
Yeah. To be
Or had he
fair,
not withdrawn, we paused the motion, passed the motion, he still wouldn't be allowed to do that?
I think it would, Shepro again, if it were passed on, it would be my opinion, Mr. O'Brien's also here from the State Attorney's Office. It would be my feeling that at the full board, there would have to be at that point a formal amendment to the site plan. Because at this point, hasn't been a formal introduction. So it is something that I guess I would characterize as something to induce you to move it forward on the representation that would be included at some point. If that
Well,
clarifies.
the issue is that if the new site plan is in, it restarts the clock and we have time. But having withdrawn that, we're on the original clock.
Correct.
And that's probably the reason it was withdrawn. I'm
So
not.
at
disputing
this-
your
it's not,
integrity.
it's not, but I don't think we've even formally introduced the site plan, as Mark said. I sent him today an updated diagram for the review at this meeting. I do not believe it could be considered a formal new site plan. With the primary reason to do that was to show visually where the new screening was that we included at the ZBA.
So at this point, then we need to move on the present motion, which is on the table. Am I correct?
Yes.
All right, clerk.
Berman,
Berman, yes.
Doherty,
Still there?
Mr. Doherty,
Doherty, yes.
Iqbal. You left, sorry. Kenyon,
Yes.
Linder,
Yes.
this isn't here. Caius,
Yes.
Williams is left, and Ford.
Ford, yes.
And passes.
All right,
Thank you, members of the committee.
Mark.
Thank you. We have one more solar petition for you this morning. If Blair could put that up on the screen.
Would be an easy one.
4619, James Ariel Trust. It's in Dale Berman's district, number 2, again, a special use in the F farming district for a solar facility. This is it on the 2040 land use plan. It is an area shown for future open space. It is surrounded, there's some forest preserve to the north and to the south, and countryside estate residential large lots to the east on the east side of Fabian. Here it is on the zoning map. There is a small area of the property that has a special use on it already. This will add an additional special use for the solar facility. Here's a closer up as well. Here it is on the aerial. You can see the Mill Creek PUD subdivision further to the east, and then some of the large lots along Fabian and Main Street. This does not illustrate on this aerial the newly opened roundabout. Here is a closer up again. And closer, you can see some of the existing uses on the site for the existing special use for firewood and material sales. Here's the plat of survey for the parcel. Here's an illustration of the original site plan that was submitted for this facility. This is a revised site plan showing the extent of the panels that they are proposing predominantly in the northern part of the parcel. Again, the two side by side. We have the usual stipulations recommended by Water Resources. KDOT is recommending 60-foot of half right of way and then the 50-foot statutory setback for the solar arrays. Approval of special use would allow for the solar facility to be constructed. Zoning Board of Appeals recommends approval with the staff recommended stipulations. It's before you this morning. And that's what we have. If there's any questions of staff.
I move. Can we get motion second? All right, can we get a, Berman make motions? Can we get a second?
Second.
All right. And a second.
And I believe the petitioner may be here to address this project.
Go ahead. Hi, good morning.
Good morning. Thank you. My name is Scott Osborne. I am the developer on this petition for Turning Point Energy. I reached out to Mr. Ford and Mr. Berman last week and Mr. Williams, I believe. Mr. Ford and I spoke briefly on Friday afternoon. I delayed reaching out to members of the board because I was not properly registered as a lobbyist in the county. I learned about that requirement and took care of that last week. So I now feel free to speak with you. I did have a presentation that I emailed to Keith this morning. I don't recall what the name of it was. It would have referenced the number 216. In that presentation, we really responded to the stipulations point by point, how we have already met those requirements or will meet those requirements. I have that presentation on a thumb drive as well, if that helps. So in the presentation, we had our site plan that we presented before the ZBA last week, and we have, that was a modified from our original application to account for some slope concerns and some drainage concerns that we felt needed to be resolved. I don't know if they're finding the presentation. Right now we're seeing an agenda. Oh, there it is. That looks like it, Keith. Yes, thank you. So there we go. This is the site plan. The parcel is presently the host of Vessel Inc., which is as mentioned, as Mr. Van Kerkhoff mentioned, a firewood and mulching company, and they have a large mulching company. I believe they bring in all kinds of slash and trees and shred them for reuse. On the parcel, there is a couple of cornfields, and the location that we would use is the northern cornfields and into some trees. Let's see if this works. This works in this area of the project, of the parcel. And our footprint would be about slightly more than 20 acres of the 80-acre parcel. What I have proposed is an 8-foot privacy fence along Fabian Parkway, on the Fabian Parkway side of the project area, and along the Vessel Inc. driveway portion of the project area that will help reduce visibility. And outside of that fence, there would also be a planted buffer of evergreen type trees to help further reduce the visual impact. The stipulations, my colleague here, civil engineer Emily Kahanik from Kimley Horn, can speak better to these the more technical requirements. So I would like to hand it off to her. Thank you.
Yeah, I also have physical copies of the zoning site plan if this would be helpful for anyone to look at. If you want me to. I can just quickly run through them and then if you have any questions, we can just move on. But I mostly just wanted to address each one. So the first one, we will be submitting a stormwater permit or before final engineering. And then on the zoning site plan that's being passed out, also what was on the first screen. We did have conversations with the county, so we are showing preliminary grading on our plans and that was submitted at the public hearing last week. So we are taking care of the slope ordinance, so we're grading in areas over 10% slopes and the cut fill will be balanced on our site. So the third comment was about the 25,000 impervious and 3 acres of disturbance. So we will submit a formal report for this project. We are over the 3,500 square feet of impervious area and over the 3 acres. So you can see that we are triggering stormwater and we do have BMPs on the east side of the site. We show 2 stormwater basins that we're proposing because that's where the water flows. And we will be committing to any offsite work in order to get to that viable outfall as determined by the county. Then you can go to the next slide. Or do I have somewhere I can click?
I just moved.
Oh, it went, sorry. This one was about the 3,000 or if you're over 5,000 of impervious, a BMP will be required. We are already doing a BMP per number 3, but we aren't over the 5,000 square feet of impervious area. The next one is about the calculator for disconnected impervious. So we have done this and this will be submitted with stormwater permit. We are required to treat 409 cubic yards of water quality volume, and those will be treated in the BMPs of those basins on the east side. Number 6, we will be submitting a drain tile study prior to final engineering. And then, so number 7 was in relation to the plantings underneath the panels. So drain tile will be rerouted around the panel area as to not interfere with any of the roots of the proposed vegetated area that's underneath the panels. Number 8, the project agrees to soil sampling every 5 years to ensure both soil health and water quality. And then number 9, the project will be planted with native grasses and native pollinated wildflowers to prevent erosion and to improve pollinator habitat and biodiversity. And then this site is not in a floodplain, so no compensatory storage is required. There are wetlands on site and a level 2 wetland delineation has been completed. So the last one, drainage, wetland, and stormwater management placed in a conservation or drainage easement. I did address the wetlands that are on site, but after talking with our environmental team this morning, I believe this refers to the basin BMPs and those will be placed in a drainage easement as well. And this one, so it says 120 to 150 feet. So this would be 60 feet of the right of way and then an additional 50 feet, which is 110 feet away from arrays. And we should be meeting this. So we have no issues complying with this right away.
As I mentioned, the privacy fence, these are renderings generated by a consultant to us who specializes in visualizations, photo simulations of what we anticipate it would look like. So we have, this would be an 8-foot privacy fence as shown here. This is a view on the top photo here. This is the northwest corner of the parking lot of the Fox Valley Christian Church that's at the corner of Fabian and Main Street. This is what we anticipate the view would be. We have to have a gate, but we believe that the fencing will do an excellent job at screening the facility. This is southbound on Fabian Parkway as it comes to the northeast corner of the parcel. And so we do see some of the fence in here, but we will have, our site plan has a drainage berm to help control the flow of water, and we can plant trees on that berm to help reduce the visual impact. Let's see, I left this one blank, but Mark, let's go. I was in Yorkville yesterday, and this is at the Kendall County Courthouse. they have a 2 megawatt solar array there. And this is an 8 foot tall wooden privacy fence. This is very similar to what I'm suggesting, and I'm this could use some planting in front of it to help reduce the view, but that's how they handled it there, and they seem to be pretty happy with it. There's a couple other photos in there. That's kind of peering through the fence at the array to see what it looks like in there, and they put down, this looks like turf grass to me, but that's how the facility looks if you can peek through that fence. And that's the presentation that I have.
All right. I think we have one Robert Johnson here that wanted to speak.
I'm the neighbor to the south, Variola. And I think he must have been spying on my notes because he nailed it. I didn't see that fence on the original exhibit zoning plan.
Okay.
And I think if he's truthful as to what he just presented and they add that fence to this plan, I have nothing to say.
All right, thank you. And Kyle Berry.
I'm the attorney for the petitioner, so I don't need to make any comments unless you have any questions. Thanks.
All right. From the committee, any questions, comment?
Differing from most of the proposals we get, these folks have taken the stipulations and typed in how they plan or what they have done. In passing this, we are not necessarily saying that they have satisfied the stipulations, are we?
No, it's just a presentation.
Yeah, okay. Just want to make that clear. I mean, I think they probably have done a good job on most, if not all of it, but we don't normally approve this performance on the stipulation at this point.
Any other questions or comments?
Mr. Chair Williams here, back again.
Go ahead.
I guess I sent a chat to everybody. I have a concern in that, you know, this location abuts two forest preserves, the Mitzi property to the north, the Dick Young Forest Preserve to the south, and is a key property to get connectivity for the forest preserve to Johnson's Mound. And I know they're not using the entire property. I'd like to understand what their plans are for the western portion of the property, and if they would have any, if the ownership would entertain conversations with the Forest Preserve District, because I know there's some bike paths that were planned by the Forest Preserve, and to me, this seems like an important property for those plans. So I'd like to hear a little bit more about those issues, if possible.
Caius, you want to say something?
Well, just as president of the Forest Preserve, this is Caius, I was just mentioning that this is, we have been forwarded these plans and are vetting them, but I don't believe we have any resolution. There were some concerns about removal of trees, but without going further into it, I don't think we can make a comment on it one way or the other.
All right, thank you. Any other questions or comments? Did you want to say something else?
Mr. Williams' question did involve the use of the remainder of the property. And I can say that our lease with the landowner is limited to the footprint of our project area. So what the landowner continues to use the property for is their own business. We don't have any impact or effect on that. If the Forest Preserve were to approach the landowner, I do not know what their response would be to any inquiries on bike paths or other public uses.
All right. Okay. Any other questions or comments? Seeing none, can we get a roll call vote?
Berman,
Berman, yes.
Doherty.
Doherty, yes.
Thank you. Kenyon,
Yes.
Linder,
Linder, yes.
Caius,
Caius, yes.
Williams,
Williams, yes.
Ford.
Ford, yes.
Passes.
Passes. Moving on, our Property Code Enforcement Division.
Good morning, everyone. John Mall, Kane County Code Enforcement.
I'll keep it short and just give you some of the numbers that we had this month. We had 29 new cases. We closed 40 cases. 29 cases remained active at the end of the month, and we did have to take 3 to adjudication. Seems like things are getting busier these last couple of weeks as the leaves fall. So just kind of more of the same. Did anybody have any questions?
Any questions for staff? Seeing none? All right, good job.
Thanks for your support.
Thank you for your efforts.
Doing a good job.
Yes. All right, moving on. We actually have a resolution.
Yes, we do. And before I move on to the resolution, in the spirit of Thanksgiving this week, I'm very grateful that the board passed for this year's budget, the creation of the Property Code Enforcement Unit. And not only were we blessed to get 3 outstanding individuals to fill those positions, they are operating at a high level as a team very, very quickly. So we're very grateful, John, for you and your team.
Very good.
We have a resolution this morning authorizing application to the circuit court for demolition of a dangerous unsafe structure located at 14N 150 Thurnow Road. It's a brief presentation in your packet. In the interest of time, I'll happy to cover any of the background in more detail, but this is part of our demolition of dangerous unsafe buildings program. Here's some of the history. It's something we've been doing since 2013, utilizing first funds set aside from the Grand Victoria Riverboat Grant, and now we get the majority of those funds reimbursed from our state grant, and we're very grateful for that. Since November of 2018, we've had 21 court orders, 4 demolished by the county, 13 by the owners, 4 rehabilitated. And so pursuing these resolutions have been highly effective in getting the property owner to take action. And we've actually had to go all the way through the demolition process only 4 times. Here's our process. We're later down in the property where we're asking, or no, actually step number 2, asking for the county board to adopt a resolution, and then that sets off under state statute the rest of the process for obtaining a court order. So this property is located on Thurnow Road, one of our rustic road corridors, just on the south end of the road where it branches off of Route 47. It's been vacant since 2018. It's uninhabited. There's dangerous structures, noxious weeds and overgrown vegetation. The private owner is been deceased, and it's open and unsecured condition. Here's some of the photos of what's out there. You can see it's also overgrown and partially hidden with a lot of vegetation. Wow. So we're asking for your support in sending this resolution onto the full county board authorizing application to circuit court for demolition order. Happy to answer any questions.
Caius would move.
I do second. We got a motion to second. Any questions or comments by the committee? All right, seeing none, roll call vote.
Berman,
Berman, yes.
Doherty,
yes.
Kenyon,
Yes.
Linder,
Yes.
Caius,
Caius, yes.
Williams,
Williams, yes.
Ford.
Board, yes.
Passes.
All right. Anything with planning and special projects?
I would just have a report of our team's activities, ask you to put it on file unless you have any questions.
About the trees. Sure.
That the correct address for that is 14N403 Thurnow Road, Rutland Township.
Did you get that?
That's the next.
Microphone, please.
I say the resolution has 14N50, and then there's a demolition presentation for 14N403.
Okay.
Oh, we missed one.
Yeah,
Okay.
so we'll need to make that correction to the resolution
Okay.
prior to the county board.
So those,
Oh, thank you.
that's B and C are the same.
Yes, that's correct.
Oh.
All right, moving on then. Back to you, Mark.
Okay, actually, you're done with me and it was on to Director Welnick.
All right. And I can still say good morning so far.
I'll be quick.
All right.
We have a cost share project in front of you today for approval. This was mentioned at Ag Committee earlier this week, and it is for a drain tile replacement project with the Sugar Grove Drainage District. This is located just north of the Aurora Airport area, and it's downstream of the Forest Preserve constructed wetlands at the Sour Forest Preserve. So they would be replacing approximately 2,500 linear foot of 15-inch and 12-inch tile, and they will be doing a directional bore under Scott Road. The cost share would utilize $39,487 worth of ARPA cost share funds that were approved by the board. The Sugar Grove Drainage District would be providing funding for the other 50% for a project total cost of $78,974.65. And so we're recommending approval of the Sugar Grove Drainage District cost share.
Okay,
Move approval.
$9 million error.
Is that a question?
That's a question.
Okay.
I
It says
am not,
says $39 million in the middle.
The next
$39,000.
comma instead of a period.
Oh, sorry. Yeah, it's $39,000. I correct that.
All right.
Oh, project.
All right. Anything else?
Why don't know? Why didn't?
Did you have a motion?
First, comma.
We did get a more. I mean, there's nothing to
I guess
approve.
we
It's
don't
just
really
a,
have.
We don't have to have a motion.
no.
It's a resolution.
For the cost share, we usually have a motion, a second, and a roll call.
Move it.
We got a motion?
Yes.
Second?
Second.
Berman.
Berman moves it. Any other questions or comments? Seeing none, roll call vote.
Berman,
Berman, yes.
Doherty,
Yes.
Kenyon,
Yes.
Linder,
Linder, yes.
Caius,
Guys, yes.
Williams,
Williams, yes.
Ford.
Ford, yes. All right. Anything else? All right. So moving on to new business. We have a resolution authorizing salary increase for the director and development.
Berman moves approval.
Linder seconds.
Then the seconds. Any questions or comments? Seeing none, roll call vote.
Berman,
Berman, yes.
Doherty,
Yes.
Kenyon,
Yes.
Linder,
Linder, yes.
Caius,
Guys, yes.
Williams,
Yes.
Ford.
Ford, yes.
Passes.
All right, next resolution under new business is authorizing salary increase for the director of environmental and water resources.
Berman moves for.
Linder seconds.
All right. Any questions or comments? Seeing none, roll call vote.
Berman,
Berman, yes.
Doherty,
Yes.
Kenyon,
Yes.
Linder,
Linder, yes.
Caius,
Guys, yes.
Williams,
Yes.
Ford.
Ford, yes. All right. Motion to place reports on file.
I'd request unanimous support for putting reports on file.
Any objections? Seeing none, all in favor by saying aye.
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 Opposed, same sign. Mr. Kenyon,
I would like to recommend we adjourn
until 1 o'clock.
till 1 o'clock. It's such a
No.
great day.
That's fun.
Any objections?
Yeah, let's do that.
I need a second.
All right, it's my treat, right?